Hello, everyone. It's been an amazing week, I guess. And from this part of the world, I've been in between cities, and I'm having a fantastic week. May is looking bright. 2021 is looking beautiful. And today I have a special guest, a special, rare guest. She's doing some great things that I'm sure by the time it starts to pan out, a lot of organizations will start to follow suit. So I'll just read her profile and I'll bring her up shortly. She's already in the studio. When I'm done, you please have to give her a rousing virtual applause. All right, Rici is a chartered accountant, South Africa by qualification, and a strength and performance coach by passion. She's a financial management professional, having spent 12 years at PricewaterhouseCoopers, managing teams, delivering services into SME sectors. For the next 3 years as an independent consultant, she provided various financial management solutions for businesses and non-profit organizations. In 2017, she joined the dynamic Wauko team. During the leading and managing of the team, Rici was very invested in the training and development of individuals. This led her to becoming a certified life coach and a Gallup-Certified strength coach. At Wupperform, a subsidiary of Wauko, Pty Limited, she's responsible for organizational performance coaching and development. She implements strength-based coaching and development that enables performance and growth, along the line. She's passionate about creating value-driven and lasting relationships that empower individuals and organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, please a virtual round of applause. Please welcome Rici Van Schalkwyk.
Whoa. How are
Great.
you?
I'm good. I feel so privileged to have you on set this afternoon. It's afternoon here in West Africa. And I must say, it's a great delight. It's a great delight. Now, reading through your profile, I've seen a bit of accounts, some financial management background, spending 12 years at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I'm like, hey, what is this? How did you get on this journey? So tell us, please. Tell us what this whole thing is all about and how you got to this becoming a strength coach.
Yeah, it is a bit strange to bring the two worlds together. They don't seem to fit to most people. I mean, if you talk about, or to most financial people in the financial management sector, you'll find that they rather work with numbers than people. But I kind of found a balance between the two. And I enjoyed the work that I did in PwC quite a bit. It was good, but the people part of it was really what motivated me, the difference that you can make in people's lives. And my husband actually brought me onto strengths because from his employment, his employer introduced them to coaching, and the coach that he got was a marvelous guy, and Mike actually had my husband do strengths. And I was so fascinated by it because I could see that it was him. So I could literally see the strengths and where they fit, and I couldn't wait to do it myself. So I did it for myself, and I paid for a session of coaching on it. And that was actually in 2014. And it made such an impact that I, at that point in time, decided to leave my current job and find one where I could combine my two passions. And that's how I got into strengths.
Okay, interesting. One of the things that you said that resonated with me is the fact that you stumbled on strengths via your husband. All right. So so you then decided to do the strength test, or he got you to do the strength test. So
Yeah.
did you guys compare notes? Did you guys
Yes.
tell me about that experience?
So, and it's actually something that I do with all of the leaders that I work with now.
Okay.
I encourage them to have their spouse do it as well, because that's the team that has to be strong for you to be a strong leader. So when we look at it, I ask them to look at it and ask their spouse's opinion on it, because that's where you get a very honest feedback from a person that you trust. And that is where you get the quickest results. So then they can see. So even your blind spots, the thing that if that strength comes up and you say, oh no, that cannot be me, your spouse will be the one that says, no, it's so definitely you. so that you get the real value, the real buy-in into this is real. This thing is very accurate.
Yeah, I had a similar experience also, because and those have been on this set. If you're joining us for the first time, this is Strength Discussion Series, and I have Rici here. And we just started off to understand how she got on this journey, and then she started to talk about how she was introduced. For me, my coming into strength was much more of a deliberate effort. It was that I'd done almost every other test. I've done the DISC, I've done the Myers-Briggs, I've done the other personality tests, and I just wanted to constantly validate who I am truly, just so that I can also just. And when I came in touch with the strengths report, I didn't have to search any further.
Yes.
Do you understand? Almost like what you said. I did not have to go any, I just stopped there and I said, yes, this is the final bus stop. So I realized that exposed me to who I am truly, and even now, so that I'm now able to manage certain things. And I'm sure a lot of people have heard me say things around that my command almost got me into trouble. So my top 5 strengths. So we're going to talk about your top 5, and I see you've listed it beautifully out there. So my own top 5. The first is strategic. The second is command. The third is significance. The fourth is deliberative, and the fifth is learner. Now, the second, of the top 5, almost put me in trouble, because I was always, I always wanted to be in charge. So tell us, and thank God, I'm glad that you've been able to establish that you've been able to benchmark your own, or just oppose yours with your spouse. Tell us how you match, and if you guys are compatible, really, and how you guys have been able to work towards compatibility.
We actually, our strengths vary quite a bit. He, for instance, has analytical and harmony and consistency and relator. So there we kind of match, but we realized fairly quickly that my belief strength creates quite a bit of stress for his harmony. So, but it's interesting how we've learned to communicate on it and work on it, and where we need, because we're a team. So if, for instance, we have 3 little kids that are born to test every limit that you have, so they will push the boundaries. And that is where I need to get him in and say, listen, Mr. Consistency, time to talk, because my empathy is going to rule everything. So you kind of get into these conversations, but I think the main thing is this understanding that you get for your value and the value of the people around you, and that you are so different, but you complement one another, but only if you're willing to see the difference and appreciate it for what it is.
Wow. And I think that, and that's it, to appreciate ourselves uniquely for our uniqueness, and also still remain original and authentic.
Yeah.
I've just been primed by my people. I think tomorrow is the World Diversity Day. So I'm sure you guys should be rooted on how we should be celebrating our uniqueness as individuals and even, you know, the diverse world. Okay,
Yeah.
so enough of, you know, so I'm sure a lot of C-suite executives that will be listening to this will be wondering, we didn't come here to talk about spouses, we didn't come here to talk about relationships.
Yes.
And we know Rici. Rici is a performance development consultant of some sort, and she's a strength coach. So can we even have some talks around that? So, okay, so let me progress in that line. The issue of performance is largely, how would I put it? Let me rephrase it this way. There's a misconception around performance, okay? And people often mistaken the performance to figures, but there's a critical driver of the figures, and that's people. And I've argued on this platform severally to say, hey, it's about time we start to see people as the ultimate asset or the capital. So what are your thoughts around this? Tell us, what are your thoughts around this?
So this is a thing that I can probably talk about for days, but let me try and keep it short on this. You cannot have performance unless you have people that are valued and guided to be the best that they can be. If you look at it, then your people is arguably biggest investment you're making. So the company I'm involved in, Wauko, that deal with the management of your full cash flow cycle. Now, most people don't think that performance management feature in cash flow cycles, but you can't have the one without the other. Cash flow is directly linked to how you're going to get performance out of your people. So yes, it is about figures, but it is about this very, very important asset that you have to continually grow. It's not an expense. It is something that you're building for your future, and that is the performance of your people.
When the traditional way, I say when we talk about people and performance, we say that the traditional way is to take cognizance of people in terms of their contribution and then looking at the output in terms of numbers. But you are saying that we shouldn't just look at the numbers, that we should see that the numbers are there, but they can be affected greatly by how you deal with the people. Okay,
precisely.
how you interact with the people. Now, I've also had people talk around people, so people development.
Yeah.
Now, how do you? So, from my own school of thought, I'm saying, is it from the point of recruitment that you start to deal with people, or how do you address these people bit towards achieving top performance or meeting your KPIs? Is it from even the point of recruitment? Because I understand the Gallup strengths cannot be used for recruitment. So what are your own thoughts around this?
So you definitely start from recruitment. And I talk about the performance triangle. Okay. For me, performance triangle is first the skills and capabilities you're searching for. So that is something that you put on the CV, you ask for. So I want this qualification, this amount of experience, and so forth. Then the second part of performance is strengths, which we don't use for recruitment, but it's important that we have it once we recruit it. But then that magical little part people miss is a culture fit and a value fit. If you don't use those as measurements when you recruit, then you're going to recruit people that's never going to fit in what makes your company what it is. So then we're spending energy and time on something that's just never going to work. They're never going to be happy.
Okay, so you're saying that because people say it's all about the numbers, it's all about the numbers, all right? It's all about the figures. But you seem to be sharing something not necessarily out of the ordinary, but how do I match? I have bills to pay. I have to watch the bottom line. There's so much building up in terms of expense, and yet you tell me I just must think through with the people and manage the people. Tell me, well, how does this make sense?
So the way I look at it and the way that I have this discussion is people work harder if they're invested in what you are doing. Now, you cannot get that unless you have complete buy-in. Now, how do I get that? If I recruit people that have the same values that I have, that fit into the culture of my company, and then when they're there, I show them that they are valuable to me. I am invested in making them reach the opportunities that they need to reach, to grow to their full potential. That is what I want for them. Then they will always walk the extra mile for you. What you will get out of them is the very best, because that's what you put into them. You are investing into them. You're making them grow by nurturing what's already them and what's making them uniquely them. But to do that, you have to have strengths as the guideline by which you do this. Because everyone, by using Gallup, we know already that there's years and years and years of research behind getting everyone's strengths. So it's a matter of helping everyone understand how important and unique they are and how much they bring. Because we already talked about having a culture fit and a value fit. So we know that the basis from where we're starting is exactly the same. If you use strengths as the first measurement, in other words, I say everybody do their strengths assessment, and that is what I use to grow and develop my people. So they already then understand how unique they are and what they are bringing to the company. And I used values and culture as the basis from where we started. Then we are in a very good space in terms of everybody being committed to the same purpose.
And so I hear echoing in my head values and culture, and I'm beginning to see a bit of the linkages. But can you expatiate more as to the correlation between values and culture, and in terms of outputs, that's the performance bit? Can you tell us a bit about the correlation? How does this correlate?
Yeah. If you don't recruit people that will fit into your culture and that have the same values that your company have, then you get this mismatch of frameworks. So they are never going to be completely settled because they won't fit. It's like trying to bring a round peg into a square hole, basically. And the energy that you then have to spend from your side and from the employee's side, to no one's fault, is going to be wasted energy. Because there's always going to be this negative energy flowing and mismatch of intentions, because you didn't start from the same value system and same culture fit.
Whoa, you are striking a very sensitive area, and we're having a boot camp right now. It's called the Reinvention Immersion Boot Camp. And one of the things we are hinging our focus on is on values, as a pillar for setting goals or meeting your expectations in life, in business, and in law. Yeah. But hearing you again talk on values and culture, you started to also tilt me towards thinking that, so even at the point of recruitment, it's also important whether you're recruiting an employee or you're engaging the services of a vendor, is that there must be some similarities in terms of values, else there'll be friction. And maybe that's why in organizations there's constant friction, notwithstanding. Yes. So can you tell us more about that? Because this seems to just like it's popping in my head, and I'm wondering, hey, are you saying that the values, if not taken into cognizance at the point of whether hiring or reviewing or engaging, could ultimately distort or lead to my dissipation of energy negatively? Please take me on that journey. Take me on that journey.
So I have no doubt that unless we measure it by values and culture, specifically values, because culture is something that develops and grows as a company grows. But values are the thing that's that guidance, that is what we decided what we stand for. So unless we do that right in the beginning, we are wasting energy. Because unless they can buy into it right in the beginning, I am investing in someone that has a different line in the sand than I have. Where they're coming from a values point of view. So why is that so important? That means that what I value is the same than what you see as value. So if you think about performance is all about value. What value am I adding? What value am I bringing? So if our definition of value is not the same, then we cannot have the same thing. And performance will not be the same. So that means that it starts there. We literally, so what I normally ask them is tell me what your company values are. Is it? Where is it? Is it just words upon a poster? Or is it something that you live and breathe? So when you recruit, you literally say, is this person going to fit into these values? We do the same thing before we take on a client. We do the same thing before we sign up with a supplier. Unless we have the same values, our definition of value added and of performance cannot be the same. So we are going to be frustrating one another and creating tension.
This is like revolutionary. That somehow, some of the ways we can conserve energy and reduce friction is first establishing whether there's a congruence of values.
Yes.
Rici, you mean this is what you're doing?
Yes.
Now, but is there data to match the output? Because this is profound. This is highly profound.
So we're working on the data, because this is while Perform as such, the company that I'm now running this in was only started in the beginning of this year. The group that I'm part of is the 5 years old. But in the last year, year and a half, we've been applying this to our staff and to some of our clients. And the results that we're getting are amazing. But obviously for it to be verified and so that you can quantify it and measure it, we're going to have to do a bit more. We're going to have to put make the data set bigger, make sure that we cover more variables. But the results that we're seeing, the activity, the buy-in from everybody, because our staff that we have, our people, are across generations.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it's not a lot of people, we struggle to get to a language that we all speak, to get to a place where we have trust in communication and know what the other one means. But values, you can relate to them, you know what they are, there they are. We talk about them, they're up there. We measure everything by that. So we do not sign a contract with a client unless we can tick all our values. And by applying that, you build a trust and a communication level and an authenticity that you struggle to get anywhere else. And it by default, if you take values and culture and you put strengths together with that, and that is the structure that I'm using. And I have regular conversations with you. So I have a weekly meeting with each one of my team. And I help you grow your strengths. I help you refine them. They are uniquely you. And I help the managers speak to their team from a strengths point of view with this guideline as culture and values. We just it keeps growing because they are invested in the company, because the company is invested in them.
Now, so I know this is not part of the strength discussion series, and those are joining us, I'm sure, and anybody watching the replay. The strength discussion series is broad, right? But the basis for this discussion is to say, look, let's talk about strengths. But every now and then, every guest comes in with a unique feel or something revolutionary that I'm sure for HR experts or people managers or people, handlers, you just must listen, because here we have Rici saying something very profound as to the tie-in as to values. So how do we determine values? Please help. How do we help people determine, or how do you determine values? So you have a young graduate coming in from nowhere, probably just wants a job, because right now a lot of people, particularly they call them they no longer Gen Zs, they are no longer millennials, they probably are some new name, because every day there's a name for them. But somehow they are like rookies. Skills, they have, they probably don't even have values. Or how do you deal with this?
So the way I start is I normally start with the leader of the company and then the managers and so forth. And then I'll say to them, so if I tell you what is absolutely non-negotiable for you, what is that? What is that thing where you put your peg in the sand and you say, this I do not negotiate on? Is it integrity? Is it honesty? Is it authenticity? What is it? I take them through that process, and we do it throughout the whole team and the whole staff complement. And the things that we get to that are most common, those are the values of the company. Now, if you're a startup, it's fairly easy because it's me, myself, and I, and maybe 3 other people. But and we sit down and we say, okay, so what do I want my company to stand for? Interact with me. That is the thing you must see. What is it? And that must be your value. Now, whether I'm talking to a millennial, whether I'm talking to Gen Z, or whether I'm talking to a baby boomer, they know what that one thing is that they stand for. And you can normally get them to talk about it. And even though the language they're using might be different, the meaning of honesty is still honesty. The meaning of integrity is still integrity. And I think the one thing that we tend to not think about because of the way that we see the new generations is that we think that authenticity is lost because it's a lot of screens and a lot of advertising and social, all of those things, the social apps, it all comes into play. But if you talk to the younger generations, the one thing they want is authenticity, because it's so hard to get unless you build it in your company. They want to know what they can rely on.
Okay, so I think I got logged out in a bit, but I'm back. Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, and I heard you say something about the people, irrespective of whatever their categorization or their how do I say it now? Whether they're Gen Zs, they're baby boomers, or that it's all about what they're able to give. It's all about what they love to give or what they're interested in. Is that what you said?
Yes, and that for all of them, even if they use different language, the words they're using are different. Honesty is honesty. Integrity is integrity. Authenticity.
Integrity. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay. So that means that one of the things that those that are listening, please note that you need to have your value statement. Every organization should have a value statement. I think that's one of the key things that it's probably not said, but should be said at most forums now. In terms of the fact that values play a critical role in shaping the culture of the organization, and ultimately also decides or determines the kind of interactions and the engagement the organization will be having. So some organizations have ethical values, some have maybe non-ethical values, and they could do business anyhow. But when you start to think around performance management, as Rici has said, you also must take into cognizance a critical factor that contributes significantly to the output, and that is people. And that the people must also come into the understanding that wherever they are at, there is a value system, and there will now be a culture. And if this is not matching, either with the people, that's the employees, or the contractors or the contracting agents or anyone that is offering service to the organization, there would always be friction, like negative energy dispensed. Whereas that energy can be put productively to moving the wheel of the organization forward.
Yeah.
This one, I can talk on this for tomorrow, as in like from now till tomorrow. But I think that somehow this point is well noted. And I would just like to call on the audience, if anybody has any thoughts around what we're discussing, and this is very key to me, but we'll move on to other matters as to how values play a critical role in the performance of an organization. And values must also now be tied to how, I don't want to go to strengths now, but with that knotty issue is what I want people to, do they agree or not? So does anybody want to contribute? Just raise up your hand so that I can unmute you. I see 776770. Do you want to talk? Where are you logging in from? You can unmute yourself. I just sent you. There's Marcos. Marcos, do you want to speak? You're allowed to talk and just let's know whether you're following us on this conversation and if there's anything you require insights around. There's Shegun. So you have the floor, please. Yame, Ifejesu. Yes, please just speak. Okay. I'm sure a lot of people are just settling and wondering, what are these guys talking about? Okay, so maybe we should get into things that are not so complex. So
Okay.
tell us about strengths, all right? Tell us about strengths. Tell us about strengths. This whole journey, because I went, because you caught my attention, and I thought that what you were talking about was very profound. But so now let's talk about strengths. Talk about strengths. How do people play to their strengths? I'm sure that's a more relaxed discussion.
So strengths, I mean, we've done strengths and we know this. I think the understanding and the power that comes with knowing your strengths is so amazing. When I did it the first time, my initial reaction was, I wish I did this a whole lot earlier, because it just brings along this freedom of, okay, so this is why I do what I do. So this is why I react the way that I react. But I think what was the most freeing for me was when I got to know other people's strengths, because now I knew that if your strength is this, then when you talk to me, that is the framework that you are using. It's like this you put on. You're talking to me from that point of view. So if, for instance, command is like with you, your number 2, I can't expect you to go into a group and everybody standing around and not take charge of the situation. Is who you are.
Absolutely.
So I should allow you to do that because it's going to come naturally to you. So if I take someone that has, for instance, harmony is number 1, and I suddenly throw them into a situation where there's huge friction and conflict, I'm setting them up for failure, because they need time to listen. They need to listen to what's happening, who's saying what, and to find the middle ground. So just taking them from nowhere and putting them in that situation, even though they might be the best to resolve the problem, is going to cause them some stress initially. It's that understanding of, I can really build up the people around me and myself by understanding my strengths and understanding what they mean. And not just understanding that the Gallup definition, but really what it means for me. And that you only get through going through coaching with a strengths coach, because they allow you to work through it and develop your strengths from the talents to the strengths that you were given and that you are built there. Because I think that is one of the other things is, you were given your strengths so that there's a specific part that you must play in the world. So if I don't use my strengths and know how they fit with everyone else, we're also going to have a mismatch. And it's the amount of traction you get and the amount of growth you get when you allow people to develop their strengths and to work through their strengths are just amazing, because suddenly they can focus on what's good for them and not what's wrong. Because I mean, in most school systems focus on what you're doing wrong. So let's say, for instance, if maths are not a good subject for you, you will get extra classes for maths until you can get it right. That's what you will do. What if we change all of that to focus on the things that we're good at? So get extra classes for the things that you're good at, because then you're going to be brilliant in them. It's that kind of principle that you need to apply with your strengths. So I think it is also around strengths. It's very, very, you have to have conversations with other people. So, because otherwise you tend to miss out on the blind spots that your strengths create. Because unless you know what the blind spots related to strengths are, you won't be able to spot them. That's why they're a blind spot. unless you have someone you trust that will tell you, listen, this is kind of your blind spot going, your strength going into overdrive.
Whoa. So this blind spot you talk around, and I've been a victim, and I told you until I came into cognizance of the reality that my command had to be used purposefully. And I love the fact that you also said that, and it's good that I'm hearing this from you, because I believe this strongly, that we're all built for a purpose. We are all purpose built. And for those that know that the purpose for which they were built, they're in a better position to play well in this world.
Yes.
Okay. And this is not being religious. This is not being, this is the reality that we are all like, we are purpose built for our assignments. And you brought out something saying, look, with these assignments that we've been given the strengths or the skills, or let's say the talents to play around with. But you now said something that also got my attention. It was when you now started to say, look, there are what you call the blind spots, all right? And that you could use them to overdrive. So it's almost like, and maybe I should deepen this conversation. It's like you're cooking a meal, okay?
Yes.
There's the value salt brings to that meal, all right? Now, we know salt brings value. Now, no matter how small, the small salt, the pinch of salt you apply. But sometimes people don't understand that they are adding too much salt to the meal.
Yes.
Okay? And in adding too much salt to the meal, it now becomes repulsive, so that you don't even want the meal anymore. So we're saying that taking the strengths test and understanding your own strengths, you can easily identify whether you're salt or you're sugar. All right? If you're sugar, you probably use a cube. If you're salt, you probably use a pinch of salt. But you're not knowing that could be what we call an overdrive. And then you have what you call nuisance value. So I remember when I was doing my command, I thought command was supposed to be used sporadically. So I was commanding at home, commanding at work, commanding in schools, commanding all the way. And I was just having enemies, friction. So using that analogy, that means I was putting too much salt in every other thing I was doing. And even though that was my strength, even though I probably was working still yet in purpose, but my purpose was now being frustrated because I did not know how to use my talent. So tell us, how do you help people discover their strengths and help them develop in a bit to deploy?
So what I do with them is after they've written the assessment, I will have a session with them where we go through their top 5. And we will work through actions that they can take, and we will work through the blind spots. But then we will focus firstly on understanding. So understanding it, working through it, and being able to identify it in yourself. So I will spend quite a lot of time with them over a period of weeks, just for them to being able to own it, to say, okay, this is that strength coming to forward, or no, this is that strength now just overpowering me completely. And once you do that and you get into touch with your strengths, because that's the other thing. What is strengths? Strengths is a common language that we're using. That's the power of it. So yes, there's this beautiful research behind it that brings it to the forefront and say, okay, when you do this and this and this, then that is your top 5 strengths. But if you go and look at the biggest unlocking value of it is that we get a common language. We get a language where we understand what we're saying when we talk about belief. We understand what we're saying when we talk about command. But the next step is then for me to own mine and understand when what is getting to the front and when is it overpowering? When do I need to tone it down a bit? I will use one of mine as an example. So discipline is my number 4 strength.
Yeah.
Discipline in my world means processes and routines. That's what it means.
Okay.
So if it's a beautiful strength to have if applied correctly, but if I take discipline as processes and routines and I apply it to an innovation team, what's going to happen? I am going to completely. It's beautiful if I apply it to a process of innovation. In other words, I put down the framework, but I cannot go and say, okay, this is the box within which you have to operate. Because then it's not going to work. The same way, if we're going to have a fun day out with the kids and I use routine and processes, then it's not so fun for them.
It won't be fun anymore.
I think it's being able to recognize when to call on which strength, when to tone them down. But it means coaching through it and working with it and spending time with it and being comfortable with it. Because as long as you're in, I tend to find that a lot of leaders want strategy as their number one or in their top 5 or top 10. Reality is that there isn't a perfect leadership profile. It is what you do with your strengths and who you surround yourself with. So it is this process really of working through your strengths and understanding them and growing them and in your context, not in someone else's.
In your context, okay. So I hear those words, and in your context and not in any other person's. It's also reaffirming the need to be original. It's also talking about being authentic. It's talking about knowing yourself, playing to your own strengths, staying on your own lane, and for whoever is listening, I'm sure you probably have had insights as to, from Rici, he says, look, there's so many things that we have touched on, and I'm sure that we cannot exhaust it in a frame of 1 hour. And, usually we shouldn't even, and I'm having an interesting time. I don't know whether it's my strength that is at work, but it would be nice to have comments from the audience. Please let us have your thoughts. All you need to do is unmute and then just either affirm what you're saying or just contribute to this discussion. Anyone. All you need to do is unmute. So I've sent you an invite to unmute. I'm asking you to mute. Ask a question, unmute. Joanna, I have Kendi, I have Kewitiwe. Kewitiwe, you want to say something? Marcus, Olamide, Shegun S.O. Let's have your thoughts on this discussion.
Yes. So I'm listening, yes. And yes, good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, Rici.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I'm listening, and I like what I have actually liked in the topic is linking the culture of the institution with production. Because honestly, if you don't have the way of doing things in your institution, then your production would obviously be affected. And I'm looking at that, and I put that into my perspective to say, if my people knows that this is how we do things in our institution, and then therefore it would assist us to make sure that we're not failing our clients, we're not failing the expectations of our clients. So we're doing things this way. We are disciplined. Maybe, for instance, we are producing in an agricultural production, we are producing this number of piglets in a month, and then we'll be selling this much. And this is how we're doing it. So that is a culture of how we're doing things. If we are consistent in what we are doing, how we're doing it, then obviously our production would be stable and improve. So I really love the topic.
Great. So tying your understanding of yourselves and your team with productivity. Rici, you want to say something about?
Yes, so that is precisely it. If people...
Hello, Rici.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So if people understand what you're expecting of them, if they understand the guidelines you're using of this is the way we do it, this is what it means for us, then that is one less thing that they have to spend energy on because they already know what it is. And they can focus on the task at hand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Marcus, what about Ace? I see it in yourself. I also see Joanna. Joanna, why are you not contributing to this discussion? What about anyway, so whatever it is, I've had a wonderful time, and I'm sure a lot of people have been blessed, but they probably also don't know what or how to ask that question. Control room, my internet is a bit unstable, so if you can hear me, can we have the profile or the contact details of our guest on display, because she has touched on some very key things around value. Yes, please talk.
Okay, thank you very much. I joined the conversation a bit late towards the late conclusion, but what I could pick up was really profounding. I really like the idea of value in having a partnership with anyone, and value could serve as the gateway to, or the key that unlocks a strong partnership. And so I would like to know how I can read up more on some of these things you're talking about. I'm very interested to read up more, or probably I need to pick up something, because this time is not enough to comprehend a lot of ideas coming from this background. That's my contribution.
Great, thank you. Rici, do you want to say something about that?
I think if you look at values as the gateway, the moment that you use that as the first measurable when you're starting any relationship, it takes some of the guessing away, and it creates a platform where you kind of already want to understand one another. So I think the idea is to rather have sessions then where you work through it and say, what is my values? What is my company's values? Because you've got to have that as a starting point then. And like I said, to me, it works directly together with strengths when it comes to the performance of my people and the organization. Because if I work with the performance of every one of the people, that is, like we said, arguably the biggest investment and asset we have, then it immediately enhances the whole performance of the organization.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Segun. Okay, so it's I believe now that a lot of, at least I am glad at the feedback we got. It's clear that people are in tune with what we're saying, and I'm sure those that will be watching the replay clearly would agree with the fact that there seems to be a correlation between values, the strengths, and then output ultimately. And if you get the equation right, then you can increase the numbers when it comes to your targets or your figures. It would be nice to have the details of Rici on, just so that any of our clients and our audience can contact Rici. Rici is a Gallup-Certified strength coach, and she's a performance management expert. Beyond that, she also has a good grasp on financial management, right? And that way, she's able to match all of the things around performance management from a holistic point of view, introducing strengths, introducing values, and just getting you to achieve peak performance. So you could always reach her, follow her on Facebook, you could reach her on LinkedIn, and yeah, our email address is there. And just please get in touch, because she's starting something revolutionary, and it's truly going to change the architecture of business going forward. And I can bet on this, that this is one of the things that we will start to see in the next 10 years, evolving and impacting lives. I can't thank you enough, Rici. Having you just come on at such a short notice is commendable, and I must thank you, because this is where your passion is. And I thank you for,
Yes.
you just lit a bulb in my head, and I'm sure we're going to be having this discussion even after now on how we could further deepen this insight across organizations, because Africa truly needs to hear more of this, that the people are the greatest assets. And until we start to focus on the people, we truly cannot start to talk about development. Deep,
No, definitely.
deep. Thank you so much. My heart to you. Yeah, your final words, just so that we keep this within the hour.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say thank you very much for the opportunity to share my passion with you guys. It is really something that keeps me going, because there's so many people that feel undervalued in this world, and it's not necessary. We have so many tools and so many people around them. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to talk to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So team, thank you. Can we all say thank you to Rici? She's all the way from Cape Town. Someone says thank you. People are saying thank you. Yes, I see. Yeah, but it's fine, because
Rici.
I'm glad.
Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you. Thank you, Rici.
Oh, she is even my home girl.
Okay, so we have people behind the mic.
Thank you.